We are really honored with the presence of Dr. Sanjeev Sanghi, who is the former dean at IIT Delhi. So he'll be talking about the National Education Policy 2020 to all of us. He is a professor and head of the Applied Mechanics Department at IIT Delhi. Having obtained his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Kanpur, he worked with John Lumley in turbulence modeling for his MS from Cornell University. He got his PhD from the Levitch Institute of the City College of City University of New York. He has been a recipient of the Ralph Baliano Award for being the most distinguished teaching assistant at Cornell University and the Excellence in Teaching Award at IIT Delhi. He was member, Board of Governors, Head Educational Institute, Educational Technology, and Dean Alumni Affairs and International Programs at IIT Delhi. As Dean Alumni Affairs, he set up a global $1 billion alumni endowment fund for IIT Delhi. Currently, he is the head of Applied Mechanics Department, where he has spearheaded a new BTech program in engineering and computational mechanics. We are really thankful that Dr. Sanghi has spared time from his busy schedule to address this august audience. I request Professor Sangramadali, who is the Director of National Institute of Science and Technology, to speak a few words about Dr. Sanghi before he starts his presentation. Sir, please.
I would like to welcome Professor Sanjeev Sanghi, a very old, good friend of mine. We spent some wonderful time at IIT Kanpur together. Both of us are from the 1980 to 85 batch. He is a pleasant fellow. You know, he is extremely bright and very pleasant and very witty. So today the day belongs to Sanjeev. And not only that, Sanjeev has been heading very responsible positions. He has collected crores of money as the Dean of Alumni and has been singly responsible for entire Alumni Association of IIT Delhi. And especially he's traveled to the United States a number of times in order to collect money for IIT Delhi. And he was, as an ex-dean, he has got terrific, he has been heading the faculty committees as well. And he's very vocal and very, very helpful. And that's the reason people love him. And you have a great guy to start off with. And especially on the topic, which is very close to our hearts as educationists, especially the national education policy. We have selected this with Devashish guidance. And I think there couldn't have been any better topic than that to kick off this faculty development program, because that is the need of the hour. We must understand it and understand all the nuances of it and understand that what it means for the coming generation as we follow the national education policy, which is still discussed, and there are some controversial issues as well. And I'm sure Sanjeev will do justice to it. So looking forward to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, all our blessings are with you. And I hope that we'll have a very exciting time. And please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Devashish, for giving the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Sangram. It has indeed been, it's a pleasure to come to your institute and deliver this session. Well, as all of you know, Sangram and me know each other now for 41 years, which is a big part of our lives. More than 2/3 of our lives, we have been knowing each other. So it's and I congratulate Sangram, Geetika, and everyone at NIST for your silver jubilee. And to get to an organization with 3,200 students, 200 faculty, and so much of achievements and such nice placements, it really is a big, big achievement. I remember the time when Sangram had visited me just before he was setting it up, and together we were thinking of how to frame the curriculum of the institute. But of course, it is all hard work which has been put by him and his team. But one thing I would like to say is that even if you look at the history of IITs, I'll come to the NEP in a minute, but there is a stage. Normally in India, at least all good institutes so far start by becoming good teaching institutes. And then there is a time to leapfrog to become a research institute and add research to the portfolio of teaching, which generally is considered to be the main role of the university. And this is something which I can see here also at NIST, the way it already, a lot of research is going on and it has become a key component. But around 25 years is the right time, right stage to jump and become what they call a full research institute. But one word of caution, at least this is what I feel, and I don't agree with many of the policymakers here. Somewhere in our quest for going for for research, we tend to go for only research at the expense of pedagogy and teaching. And that is one thing we have to be careful about it. Somewhere this has also been addressed, though very obliquely, in the NEP. Now, a warm welcome to all the participants of this course on nanotechnology. Well, I'm no expert on nanotechnology, but okay. So now my screen is being shared. I'll just get the presentation in a minute. So, well, that's okay. Yeah. So now, as I was saying, I'm no expert on nanotechnology, but as was mentioned, we started a new BTech program in engineering and computational mechanics. And one of the core subjects which we thought, which comes in all types of mechanics, is also nanotechnology, nanomechanics, and which we teach through a course in multi-scale modeling, where we go from nanotechnology to the macro scales. And somewhere this is what, as practitioners of nanotechnology, you have to keep in mind. While a lot of your applications will be only nanotechnology based, but eventually you'll have to integrate them as a system to the macro scales. And so now let's start with the new educational policy. Am I audible? I assume so. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're absolutely.
So this new educational policy was released last year by MHRD, and actually this work on this has been going on for the past 2 years. And some very eminent people have been there who have been a part of this committee. At least one of them I know, some of you would have been knowing. This is Professor Manjul Bhargav of Princeton University, who is one of the stars in the area of mathematics globally. And he is one of the youngest professors at Princeton, and he had been invited many times. He was attending all the meetings on national education policy, and most of them physical, because at that time the pandemic had not come and almost all meetings were physical. The concept of online meetings we are learning now, and probably will have a long role, a major role to play in future education also. So this education policy envisions an India-centric education system which provides high quality education to all. And here to all is a key part, and the aim, and it hopes to transform India into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society in the world. Some of the highlights of the NEP 2020. Whenever a new education policy comes, a question which comes to mind is it just old wine in new bottle? And I will answer this question at the end of the talk. I'll take you through all the features of NEP and also leave you to ponder what the answer to the question is, and I will give my answer to this question at the end. So some of the highlights which I could make out and which I could see was that it aims to recognize the need to evaluate higher order skills such as creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, visualization, and idea generation. Most of our education is so far tends to be exam and evaluation based, and therefore tends to focus on rote learning and memory learning more than skills like creativity, critical thinking. And this is what the NEP, at least one of the focus is to try to get these elements in the education. Another emphasis which is given here is on multidisciplinary learning. Higher education, particularly in India, is very compartmentalized. And we start this compartmentalization at a very early time. For example, we started in school after class 10th, we talk of science, arts, commerce, which are highly compartmentalized. Of course, now through the curriculum, we do have people who can take subjects from intermingling streams. But When we go to the higher education, still, when we talk of the college level and university level, this compartmentalization is even more compact and tends to basically is one of the things which is hindering our education process. And this policy emphasizes on multidisciplinary learning, and so that there is no separation made between vocational and academic streams. So it also tends to integrate vocational education in higher education and school education. It also allows for multiple entry and exit options in degree courses, which I will discuss as I talk more. This is just some of the features which I thought I will say. In terms of educational degrees, it will become very clear that MPhil programs will now be discontinued following this policy. There will be a single regulator for higher education institutes. Well, this is what has to take, and as I will explain, higher education institutes, but there is a caveat to this. But the single regulator means we had UGC, we had AICTE, all these now will be replaced by a single body. But still, there are certain aspects where the other regulators will still stay, and I will focus on that later. Now, the board exams, the stakes will be low because all university admissions will be through exams conducted by the National Testing Service. So therefore, the board exams will try to test the conceptual skills and which the student has ordained during the course, has got. There will be a common entrance exam for universities. That's why the board exams, the stakes will get lower. And one point which I found that throughout the policy, it has been written, of course, we have to implement it well. There is a strong emphasis on teachers and their career progressions. And this is at all stages. The NEP covers not only the higher education, it starts from the first grade education or even nursery education and deals with issues till PhD level. So basically it is, so now let's look at some of the key principles which are based in the policy. The policy envisages to have respect for diversity and local context in curriculum, pedagogy, and policy. Now, how would this come? Well, at least at the school level, there are currently also we have so many state boards which define the curriculum of the school education. So through that, the diversity and local context in the curriculum comes in, and this has been focused on by the new policy also. But it adds that the pedagogy and teaching, particularly till later stages, it has to be the local languages have to be focused, and that will ensure a respect for diversity. Of course, it says the 3-language formula has to be followed, but till class 5, the medium of instruction should be the local language. Then the other principles, I've just picked up some of the key principles which appeal to me. There are more key principles. Is the second principle which appealed to me, which was the equity and inclusion in all educational decisions. Equity would mean that giving everyone the same thing. So, which means that whoever is coming at whatever level, everyone, irrespective of their background, gets the same education and same learning is imparted to them. And equity would mean fairness and access to the same opportunities by everyone. So these have been, this is one of the key principles. The other key principle is that of gender equity. A special focus has been put on, again, this is at all levels, for safety and rights of all children, particularly girls, and try to retain them in school. Gender sensitivity will be an integral part of the curriculum. And this is one issue where I think we do lack, and not only in the school education, but also at higher education, we are insensitive to gender issues, and this will now be a part of the curriculum. And there's a focus on bridging the gender gap and providing equal opportunities to male as well as female students. And there are special policies targeted for girls, and particularly for girls in socio-economically disadvantaged groups. As we know, some of this has already started even before this policy. For example, now in CFTIs and IITs, at least there is in the undergraduate curriculum, there's a 20% of students in each discipline have to be girls. So those who don't make it out of the ranking, supernumerary seats are created. So things like these are encouraged in the new policy. Then there is encouragement and facilitation for philanthropic participation, for private participation, and community participation. In fact, the policy goes in detail and talks a lot about commercialization in education. And what it says is that whatever, even if any extra revenue is generated from a particular school or university, it should go back to the education sector. It should not be used as a means to generate more wealth for individuals or for a group, but it should be going back to the education sector. And this is something, at least I see it from what I know about NIST. This anyway, without this policy, it had been doing activities like this. Philanthropic activities and all are already done in a big way by NIST, and where now I know a very good school also has come under the same banner, or maybe with a new name, but with the same name. So this is what also is envisaged in the policy. Another point which comes in a big way is the use of technology in all facets of education, education planning and management, teaching and learning, removing language barriers, removing barriers for Divyang students. And somewhere, as was being mentioned earlier, while we have had this pandemic, there have been so many negative effects. But at least one effect of this is that this use of technology, there is always an entry barrier to most of these things. We all have inertia and we are very comfortable doing things the way they were. But because of the pandemic, the technology usage in education was forced upon us. Classes went online. Now, if the pandemic would not have been there, possibly many universities would not have agreed for a total online mode. But now it has come. Of course, I'm not saying it is all good, and it has its limitations, but at least we can see the highlights of use of technology in teaching, and this again has been envisaged in the new education policy. Another key concept which is there is to emphasize conceptual understanding rather than rote learning for exams. I talked about this a bit earlier also, that the exam should not be just trying to utter out and to remember something and just reproduce that in the exam, just write the formulas, but it should be based on conceptual understanding. Then it also talks about identifying unique capabilities in each student. And it tries to say that, okay, it's not just a focus on studies, as we call it, as we know, on subjects, but also talks about arts, talks about sports in schools. So all these have to be integrated in the school curriculum, and things like verbal and linguistic skills, they have to be encouraged not only at the school level, but also at the higher education level. Skills on how to use the computers for basic things. This will start at the school. In fact, now, as you will see, even the AI education and machine learning type of simple modules, they are envisaging starting it in the middle school. And in addition to these, a lot of focus on arts and sports in education. Another principle is to encourage logical decision making and innovation. Innovation, of course, is a separate, probably should be a separate principle, that there is a lot of emphasis on innovation and ensuring at least there should be innovative activities in each higher education institute. Of course, in creative thinking, the problem solving should be such that you enhance creativity and encourage critical thinking. The students should be encouraged to question, to talk about logical reasoning, mathematical intelligence, analytical reasoning, training of memories. All this has to be. Now, with respect to the school education, I'll first talk of this, and then I think more relevant will be the higher education part. So the school education, the basic change, there is a transformation in curricular and pedagogical structure. The existing structure is a structure of 10 plus 2 in school. There is no formal discussion about what should happen before class 10. Children do go to nursery and preschool, but the academic structure starts from class 1. So we have classes 1 to 10, we have common subjects, and then last 2 years we have from ages 16 to 18, we have the plus 2 part of the 10 plus 2. Now the new pedagogical structures starts not at class 1, but it starts 3 years before class 1. So that means this is including things like Anganwadi, preschool, or Balvatika for the first 3 years. This is where things will start, and they will also be a part of the education regulation and other things. So they will also be checked, and they will be considered as a part of the education, not left totally informal. And along with that is clubbed the first 2 years of school. So this is what is called the foundational stage, where most of the activities will be multi-level play, activity-based training, not rote-based training. So that's the training which is going to be there. First 3 years, it will be entirely play and activity-based, and gradually leading to more of education and questions being encouraged, all the policies which I've said earlier to be inculcated, whatever is relevant in all these stages. Then the next stage after class 2 comes the preparatory stage, which is from classes 3 to 5 and for ages 8 to 11, and where again the education is through play, discovery, activity-based, and now interactive classroom learning also becomes a part of the learning. After this comes the middle stage, which is the stage of experiential learning in sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, humanities. And one of the features is that you're not again splitting things into very compartmentalized education. All these are being blended together. And the final stage, which is from classes 9 to 12, is what is considered as the secondary stage in this policy. It's called the secondary stage. So totally we have 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And this secondary stage talks of multidisciplinary study, greater critical thinking, flexibility, and student choice of subjects. And once again, in the student choice of subjects, vocation is also a part. We'll see that. And so there is again a big flexibility given to students to choose the subjects which they would like. Well, to start off with, there is a focus on early learners, and for ages 3 to 8, which is called the foundational stage, we will have, as we discussed, children from nursery, KG, prep, class 1 and class 2. And there's a foundational learning curriculum, and this there is what they call the ECCE, Early Childhood Care and Education. So from 3 to 6 will be this early childhood care and education, and from ages 6 to 8 will be classes 1 and 2 in a school. And prior to age 5, all child will move to a preparatory class or Balvatika, that is before class 1. The child will move to this. And there's a universe. What is being accessed is that each child should be having access to this foundational learning curriculum, that is curriculum till stage 2. For children of 3 to 6 years, the access to free, safe, high quality education at whatever the body may be, it is either Anganwadi, preschool, Balvatika, has to be ensured. And this has to be multifaceted with flexible, multi-level, play-based, activity-based learning. And for these, to set these up, basically, I think the framework of this will be set up mainly by NCERTs, which will be the mentor bodies to SCERTs, the State Council of Educational Research Training, and they will formulate the curriculum. They talk of a NCPF ECE, a National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Education, to be drafted by NCERT and to be implemented with SCERT. And this will be aligned with the latest research and best international and national practices. And this will, some of the things which have been described, how the framework will consist of alphabets, languages, numbers, counting, colors, shapes, indoor and outdoor play, puzzles and logical thinking, problem solving, drawing, painting, other stuff, drama, puppetry, music. So all this will be a part of the curriculum. And a 3-month play-based school preparation module for grade 1 students will be developed by NCERT. So this module will be there in all class 1 education. So the whole focus of all this learning and the outcomes will basically, the outcomes will be to develop curiosity in the child, to have logical thinking and problem solving. Arts, crafts and music, there would be introduction to this. Relationship with nature. So that means there will be outdoor trips for the children, so where they can interact with nature and see different things in natural surroundings. Color, shapes, alphabets and numbers. And there's a lot of emphasis on teamwork and collaboration at this level. That means a lot of activities which the children will do will be in a team and with some other children, so that they see the value of collaboration and teamwork. And all the activities, as you said, will be play-based and discovery-based learning. And focus will be also there, or stress will be, it will be sort of subtly or directly, ethical values will be sort of be a part of the curriculum. And this will help the child in sort of realizing, getting self-respect and self-identity, and adequate behavior and emotional development of the child will also be seen. So now the changes in the curriculum which come, well, there will be a reduction in the curriculum which we see in the school, and curriculum in all subjects will be reduced to the core essentials, and critical thinking will be encouraged. So there will be a focus on critical thinking, inquiry, discovery, discussion and analysis based teaching, and learning methods for holistic education. So this holistic education is something, again, which has been prescribed again and again in the document, where they want people to develop not just the rote memory in subjects, but overall development should take place. There's a lot of focus given to interactive classes. So classes with reduced dependency on textbook learning. All concepts to be discussed with the children, and questions from the students will be promoted. This is something which again will have to be implemented. The implementation of this will have to be seen, because typically in our education, we see that questions are not very much encouraged. And with this will be all throughout, it will be an experiential learning, where you start from very basic activities, fun collaborative activities, and slowly with experiential learning, you go deeper and deeper into the subject. Now, one of the aims they say is that there should be attainment of foundational literacy and numeracy by grade 3. So by the time the child completes the first level of education, there should be literacy they should be able to read and write, and numeracy. So they should be able to have basic mathematical operations. This should be done. And for this, many modes have been there. There will be foundational skills with universal acquisition of foundational learning skills, national mission of foundational literacy and numeracy, book promotion, early learning, 3-month based play school, a national repository of high quality teaching and learning, resources on Diksha, which is an online platform by the government of India, libraries, school and digital libraries. And the aim is that 100% of the children of the nation should be attaining foundational literacy and numeracy. Then the way there's a focus, as we talked on, learning objectives, competences, and subject integration. So it's a competence-based education. Modules on preparing and implementing pedagogical plans based on competency and outcome-based education, not just rote learning. Integration of subjects. So because there is a lot of flexibility, that means any subject can be studied. So obviously an integration is a natural byproduct of this flexibility. So there will be, the curriculum will be arts integrated, sports integrated, ICT integrated, and things like storytelling based pedagogy, and among others as standard pedagogy. So therefore, all these elements will be integrated in the curriculum. A big focus has been there on development of logical and scientific temper. Development of scientific temper and inculcation of knowledge and practice. And to this, you talk of value education, also practice of human and constitutional values such as patriotism, sacrifice, non-violence, truth, honesty, and peace. Because also we have seen this from experience. We have created a value education department at IIT Delhi. But while we may still try to get some of the values inculcated, but a lot of these get inculcated at home and in school when the child is in his or her formative years. So therefore, this has to be a part of the curriculum from the beginning. And then there are no silos among subjects. This is basically, again, trying to include flexibility. So therefore, no separation between curricular or co-curricular or extracurricular activities, because we have all grown up with this. This is an extracurricular activity. But now this will all be a part of the curriculum. Academic and vocational activities will be integrated. Science and humanities will be there side by side. It is not either science or humanities. And sports, arts, academics, as I've already said, will be all a part of the curriculum. There's a special emphasis on digital literacy, coding, and computational thinking, ethical and moral reasoning. So all these, again, this particularly the digital literacy, coding, computational thinking will be introduced from the middle level school onwards. And there's a proportion of multilingual teaching, which anyway, the 3-language formula will be followed, but now at least 2 languages in the 3 languages have to be Indian or regional languages. So promoting, and also it talks of promoting states to enter into bilateral agreements with nearby states to hire language teachers, so that if a child wants to take proficiency in any of the regional languages given in the Constitution of India, that should be allowed at all schools. And textbooks will be with local content and flavor. So they will contain only essential core material while capturing any desired nuances, and supplementary material could be there which would be provided. The textbooks will be affordable, high quality, energized textbooks to be provided along with free digital version on Diksha platform. So all textbooks will be, the digital version will be provided free on the Diksha platform. States will prepare their own curricula and textbooks based on NCERT curriculum and textbooks. And this will be, as we said, will be through SCERTs, and they will incorporate the state flavor and material as needed. So this could happen, say, like, for example, you talk of some freedom struggle person, there's a chapter in the language textbook. So here this chapter could change, and maybe states could take leaders which are very well known in those states, and the chapter could come there. Something like these sort of introducing this local content in the text. Concentrated effort through students and suitable changes in the curriculum and pedagogy to reduce the weight of school bags and textbooks. I'm sure children will be very happy with this. So therefore, the whole teaching learning process will be transformed. And this is envisaged through experiential learning, where the focus is on experimental inquiry and discovery-based teaching and learning methods. Integrated pedagogy, where art, sports, storytelling, ICT, all are integrated, academic and vocational, this thing. And then there is also, they talk of promotion of peer tutoring. Peer tutoring is when students of the same group, or maybe in one or two classes higher, they voluntarily help the students and make them learn, which is a joyful activity under the supervision of teachers. So this also has been talked of. There will be, as I talked of, there will be equal weightage and no hard separation between curricular, extracurricular and co-curricular activities, and freedom of choosing a variety of subjects. And then they also talk of a concept of bagless days, where a few days in the curriculum will be bagless, where no bag has to be carried to school, and learning will be through just experiencing and through other means. And use and integration of technology, again, I have already specified that. It talks of computational thinking, where increased emphasis on mathematics and computational thinking throughout the school years. Activities involving coding will be introduced in the middle stage. So it's something like what you may say, catch them young. That's where most people seem to be going. The world seems to be going that way. So the policy wants that people should be caught earlier in this. And then inculcation of mathematical thinking and problem solving through variety of innovative methods, like regular use of puzzles and games. So this will become a part of teaching, users of puzzles and games. Right now, they are part of extracurricular activities, and then including contemporary subjects in schools. Teaching of contemporary subjects at middle and secondary stage, subjects like artificial intelligence, design thinking, environmental education, holistic health, organic living, global citizenship education. So all these will also come at some level in the school education. And then this part of integration of vocational education at all levels. So practice-based curriculum for grades 6 to 8, skill gap analysis, finding where focus areas where skill gaps are there and mapping it to local opportunities, open distance learning mode. So courses could be offered through open distance mode and weightage to be given to those courses. Exposure to vocational education. And this is one key part. By 2025, it is envisaged that at least 50% of the people in the school will be exposed to some vocational education or the other. And this vocational education could be carpentry, could be painting, could be plumbing, things like this will be introduced for everyone at the school level. Then Lok Vidya, a knowledge developed in India, and particularly trying to see the things which have been there in Indian to be made accessible to all students. For skills framework, national skill qualification framework will be detailed for each discipline, vocation or profession. And all students of class 6 to 8 will intern with local vocational experts. And this is where it comes to, such as carpenters, gardeners, potters, artists, etc., to develop a vocational craft. Possibly this could be integrated with the arts and sports curriculum also, because it would be either vocation or getting to arts, learning some music, painting, or playing some sports. And during grade 6 to 8, there will be, every student will take a fun course that gives a survey and hand-on experience of sampling of vocational crafts. So this I've already talked about, just a pictorial representation. And then, so and incorporating along with this. Okay, let me see. Okay, next one. So now it also focuses on mental and physical health and well-being of the children. So children should acquire skills in health and nutrition, physical education, wellness and fitness, sports, and basic training in preventive health care, mental health, first aid, personal and public hygiene. There will be annual health checkups for all students in schools and reduction in the weight of the school, as I've already talked of that. Then it also talks of especially incorporating ethics, values, and knowledge of India. And this would be in a lot of new type of ways. For example, video documentaries on inspirational luminaries in India, of India, in science and other fields to be played in school. Students will be given a logical framework for making ethical decisions at a young age. Later years expanded on themes of cheating, violence, plagiarism, littering, tolerance, equality, empathy. So all these will come at a school level. Traditional Indian values and all basic human and constitutional values to be developed in all students. As scripts from the Indian Constitution will be considered essential reading for all students. I believe Sangram NIST has something like this already in the curriculum. So again, this is something which for the education policy talks of, some universities have already incorporated this. Then basic training in health, mental health, and all. And this is to be incorporated in an accurate and systematic manner. Indian knowledge systems, including tribal knowledge and indigenous and traditional ways of learning to be covered. And medicinal practices, forest management, traditional crop cultivation, natural farming. So it's a wholesome curriculum to be encouraged. There'll be changes in assessment, in key stage assessments now. In classes 3, 5, and 8, there will be a board type of exam, which will be decided by the state boards. And the achievement of basic learning outcomes will be tested, not rote learning. The results will be used for developmental purposes of school education system for its continuous improvement and monitoring. So the results will be used not to assess or brand the student, but to have an improvement in the school system. So this is something which I think is very a new type of thing. And then the achievement of literary outcome, the testing will be on focus of achievement of the outcomes. And the results of school examination will be used only for developmental purposes and continuous monitoring of the school system. And it transforms the culture of assessment. It talks of something which already had been introduced a few years back, what they called CCE. This was introduced in about 2013. I think that it was revoked back, but it is coming back in some other form. That in a different form, continuous tracking of learning outcomes, board exams to be more flexible. In fact, they're talking of 2 board exams, not 1, so that people can improve their performance in the board exams. More flexible, essential, all skills to be covered there. Focus on core concepts, AI-based software to help track the progress of the students, a national assessment center to help these things, a self-assessment and peer assessment, and finally the university admissions, etc., to be through a national testing agency. So and then a national assessment center, Parak, will be set up as a standard setting body for setting norms, standards, and guidelines for student assessment and evaluation for all recognized boards. So this is how the school education will go, and the report card will report a 360-degree holistic progress of the student, not just the academic part. So therefore, the progress cards will be made in such a way it will include self-assessment, peer assessment, teacher assessment, and it will reflect the progress and uniqueness of the learner in cognitive, affective, socio-emotional, and psychomotor domains. So a lot of work for the school teachers. A lot of free online resources are available. through basically these platforms of Government of India, Diksha, Swayam, and these platforms will be expanded. Blended learning will be encouraged. That means part of it can be here. Particularly, it will help the Divyang students if the blended learning modes will come. And there's a timeline given for the implementation of the new program. And it is also said that it has to be ensured that everybody completes school up till at least class 8th and possibly class 12th. So this timeline has been given. Now, I've taken most of this time, but let's talk of what the policy talks about higher education institutes. And so again, in the higher education institutes, we talk of multidisciplinary education and research universities, which would be at par of the current sort of goal, which you talk of IITs and IIMs, to be set up as models of best multidisciplinary education of global standards in the country. And this will be now the concept of a higher education institution. They talk of a change, and it will be a large multidisciplinary institution offering undergraduate and graduate programs. So in some sense, where NIST already is, this is what their concept of a higher education institution is. They talk of high quality teaching, research, and community engagement. And there are three categories of the higher education institutions which will be there. Currently, we have colleges and universities. Some of these are colleges and universities are under broad framework of another university, or colleges are under one university. But now what they are talking of is that there will be three categories. At the bottom category would be the third one, the autonomous degree granting college, which will be focusing only on undergraduate teaching. And now the single subject undergraduate teaching will be removed. It has to be multidisciplinary. So you can't say it's a science college or an arts college or an engineering college or a management college. All disciplines have to be covered by the higher education body. And once the undergraduate teaching has been covered, then it envisages that the university will progress to one of these two levels, which is either a research intensive university, which lays equal emphasis on teaching and research, or a teaching intensive university, where the greater emphasis on teaching, but still significant research is there. So the difference between ADC, Automatic Degree College, and the teaching intensive or research intensive university is basically the presence of research. And the fact that teaching has been kept even the research intensive university at an equal emphasis. So that at least on paper, one of the biggest job of the university, which is dissemination of knowledge or teaching, has been given proper priority. Now, the policy talks of setting up a Higher Education Commission of India, which will effectively replace UGC and AICTE. There will be holistic multidisciplinary education, and another feature of this will be multiple entry and exit options, which I will show on one of the future slides. And all universities will be run on the basis of a credit system, and there will be facilities to facilitate transfer of credits. If somebody has left at a particular stage, wants to join back at some other place, some other university, so the facility to transfer the credits for the education already attained will be there. MPhil courses will be discontinued, and all courses will be taught at the undergraduate level, postgraduate level, and PhD level, and they would be interdisciplinary. A National Research Foundation will be created as an apex body for fostering strong research culture. There will be no more affiliated colleges. All these higher education institutions emphasize by 2035, all of them should become autonomous. And they will have their own flexible curricular structures, which will create combinations of disciplines. Now, this multiple At the undergraduate level, there will be multiple entry and exit options at either 3 years. So this undergraduate degree will be either a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree. How does it work? You do the first year of college education, and if you leave after that, you will be given a certificate. You leave after 2 years, you will get an advanced diploma. You leave after 3 years, you complete, you get bachelor's degree. And if you do leave after 4 years, you get bachelor's degree with research. So this is what will be the new undergraduate this thing, and people can leave at any stage and join back from that stage onwards, maybe in a different college. Then another focus on all higher education institute is on internationalization, where India will be promoted as a global study destination. Premium education, it will offer premier education at affordable cost, and it is expected that it will restore its role as Vishwaguru. So therefore, each HEI has to have an international students office, which will facilitate the research and teaching collaborations with foreign universities, and faculty student exchanges at all levels will be facilitated. And it will be both exchanges inward as well as outward. And high performing Indian universities will be encouraged to set up foreign campuses. So good universities, Sangram, there is something more for you here. NIST can set up a campus, maybe somewhere else outside India. And foreign universities in top 100 will be facilitated to operate in India. Then there's a setting up of this body called the National Research Foundation, which will enable a culture of research in universities. And it will provide merit-based, equitable, peer-reviewed, competitive research funding. And this will be in addition to the current research funding granting bodies like DST, DAE, DBT, ICAR, ICMR, ICHR, and UGC. And it will act as a liaison between researchers and relevant branches of government and industry. And what it will do is it will make the researchers aware of the need of the government and industry. And it will make the government and industry aware of the breakthroughs which have been made by the researchers in universities, so that they can be further utilized. And also this body will recognize outstanding research and progress by different individuals and universities in the nation. And this transformation there'll be a regulatory system which will be called the Higher Education Commission of India, and it will have four particular verticals. There'll be a NHERC, National Higher Regulatory Education Regulatory Council, which will be a single point regulator for higher education. But then these two things come except medical and legal. And I think this has come because these are not under the purview of MHRD. But one question which I have in mind is that until these are integrated in the same setup, or then they will still have to run parallel, because when we talk of multidisciplinary universities, medical and legal, these have to be a part of multidisciplinary universities. So that means, again, this problem of a single regulator will probably not be settled, because we will have this, but in addition, the medical and legal regulations have to be by their own bodies. But still, at least there is the technical regulation has been merged with university. But these two still stay. Then also this NHERC will set up and regulate in a light but tight manner. It will check the financial probity, good governance, audits, procedures, faculty, staff, courses, infrastructure of the institutes, and the information will be made available, and it will be kept updated about all these things, not only on the website of the institute, but also of this Education Regulatory Council. The second vertical is accreditation, and the mechanism to enable regulation will be through NAC. So this National Accreditation Council will be set up. This will become the single body for accreditation of these universities, and accreditation will be based on basic norms, public self-discourse, good governance, and outcomes. There will be an independent ecosystems of accrediting institutions overseen by NAC, and a robust system of graded accreditation specifying phased benchmarks for all higher education institutions. And all the institutions will prepare their institutional development plans, which will aim to attain, through these, they will aim to attain highest level of accreditation in 15 years. That means they will become self-governing, degree-granting clusters. Then, for the funding and financing, there is a higher education grounds council. And this funding and financing will be based on transparent criteria through this council. It will include institutional development plans, which we have talked about, and progress made on their implementation. And that will be the basis of funding. It will disperse scholarships and development funds for launching new focus areas and expanding quality programs. So all the funding and financing will come under HEGC. And the fourth vertical will be a general education council, which will look at general learning outcomes, which is also being referred to as graduate attributes. So there will be a formulation of national higher education qualification framework in sync with national skills qualification framework. And this will integrate vocational education with higher education and facilitate norms for credit transfers and equivalences through this framework. And identification of specific skills to be acquired during their academic program will be done so that they can be evaluated. And professional standard setting bodies will continue to be councils like ICAR for agriculture, VCI, NCTE, National Council of Training Education, Veterinary Council, COA, this is for architects, NCVET, and all these, they will be invited members of GEC. So still the professional standard bodies will set the standards, but they will be members of GEC. There's a special distinction on governance and leadership of HEIs. Many of you will be budding professors and you'll aspire for roles like this. And what it says is through graded accreditation and graded autonomy, all HEIs will be becoming independent, self-governing institutions in 15 years. And they have to ensure leadership of highest quality. So therefore, in all these HEIs, a board of governors will be established. It currently exists in some bodies, but not. And this board of governors will be empowered to govern the institute free of external interference. It can make all appointments, including the leadership of the HEI, through an eminent expert committee. So it is expected that the leaders will be people of eminence from various fields, and this will be done by this committee, which will be set up by the board of governors of the institute. And the new members of board of governors who will come, again will be identified by an expert committee set up by the board. And by 2035, it is envisaged, all HEIs will be governed by such BOGs. And if implemented, this really will give a lot of freedom and autonomy to the institutes, and if it is put in the right spirit. Other features which came of the NEP, they were like, there's adult education and lifelong learning has to be encouraged, so people can join education at any stage, any level, based on their past. Promotion of Indian languages, art and culture, technology use and integration, online and digital education, ensuring equitable use of technology. We have platforms like Diksha, Swayam Jyoti, Swayam Prabha. Online assessment and examinations could also be a part. Blended learning model. So that means online and digital education not only becomes supplemental education, but it also becomes a part of the education. And according to me, this is something which I have seen as the salient features which I see of this whole educational policy, not just for HEIs, this is my last slide, is basically one is it gives a lot of flexibility, it gives multidisciplinarity, which so far we have not talked about much in our education system. We are still very compartmentalized. It talks of use of technology, not just as supplementary education, but an integral component of the education. There's a talk of autonomy to all higher education institutions and a single regulating body, which again single is with a pinch of salt because law, medical education is still outside the purview. So this is what I feel, and at least in my education, in my opinion and assessment, it is not just old wine in new bottles. At least there is definitely a lot of new component in this MEP. But again, with all this, it depends on the way how we implement it, and implementation will become a key issue. If implemented properly, it can take India to the best stage in the world where we can actually become wish gurus. So the implementation will be critical. So that is my last part. Any questions if you have, I will be happy to answer them.
Let me start off, Sanjeev.
Yeah.
This is Sangram here. You definitely pointed out a very important thing is that our engineering education we had about 7 or 8 courses which were
Yes.
from psychology, sociology, and different areas such as that, which
Yeah.
we really, long after we have left the campus, we enjoyed those, doing
Yes.
those courses. So this interdisciplinary mixing of courses and
Yes.
awarding points to those courses, I'm sure
Yes.
the committee has thought that all technology syllabuses will not be topped out. It will be actually discussed by the college itself, and
Yes.
it will be regularized. There's no question of uniformity of syllabus all across
Yes.
India. Is there anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, it does.
So-
Yeah, I think that is what it is envisaging. So if implemented, it will lead to that. See, for example, somebody wants to have a course in which combines technology with medicine, which is the need of the day. So currently, in the current framework, we have either engineers or we have doctors. But if you want, you can make a course which will have a combination of these.
Okay. And the last question is, I would like to know your comment. Most of the colleges offering BA, BSc still complain that it's a 3-year program, whereas any university abroad, practically in the United States, unless you have a 4-year program, you are not qualified to do a master's. So
Yeah.
how has that been taken care of? Has it been or not?
Yeah, it has been, because see, now the undergraduate, they talk of 4 years. You get a degree certificate after 3 years, but you have the option of the 4th year. So I'm sure that all universities who are providing an undergraduate degree have to keep that 4th year in mind, which they talk of as the year of education and research. So people have the option of taking the 3-year degree or the 4-year degree.
Okay. That is a great,
Yeah,
fantastic thing.
that is definitely
Sanjeev, there have
especially-
been a few issues which you did not touch upon. That many of these courses will be taught in local languages.
Yes.
Things like engineering and things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Is
yeah.
that a humongous task, or is it possible? We know we have been discussing about it. What's your view on it?
Well, my view is currently it's not that easy, particularly because all our subject development, let's say, because I specialize in engineering. If I look at it, I hardly have many textbooks in engineering in Indian languages. And also, even the way things have started in school, like how many of us would know the scientific terminology in a regional or a local language? So, at least my take is possibly it is to start with keeping the terminology the same, but explaining it in a vernacular. So, for example, I may take and you see a lot of coaching classes do that. Look at Khan sir's classes on this thing. All of you must have seen these videos. So, the terms which he is using are all English, but he's talking in Mathli. So, maybe somewhere like that, it would help go a long way in explaining it to the students. And then somewhere later, we'll have to take a call whether all the terms, scientific terms also have to be changed to local languages, or we adopt these terms and call it some sort of a mixed model, whatever you would like to say.
One is, look, there's no mention of ITIs in this whole NEP. So how do ITIs fit in? After all, they are also technical institute.
To answer you partially, Atul, I think I see there is NCVT still existing there, because in some of the slides NCVT was mentioned. So it could be that ITIs are now integrated into the first year of the 4-year program. That means when you get a certificate, it is basically means an ITI. Or the diploma would be adjusted according to the second year certificate, because at the end of the second year they call it a diploma. So the traditional diploma is now being put into the 2-year program. Okay. So I think basically the ITI is now merged in that 4-year program.
Okay.
And 1 year goes to, and you get a certificate, and you do in the practical in the first year, you do everything that is done by the ITI people. That's what the integration could be, to answer your question, as far as, because if you separate after first year, then you can be an ITI. And if you separate after second year, you are a diploma. So that your lateral entry could be into engineering at a 3rd year level. So there has been, some issues like that, but I can think that.
Now, when it comes to vocational education, I mean, look, there's a difference between a trainer and a teacher. A teacher is more education related and all. A trainer has to have some practical knowledge. I mean, you cannot be just teaching welding after, just reading about it.
Yeah.
And welders usually trainers usually come from the corporate side. So is there going to be a kind of an influx, some kind of new recruitment happening where teachers and trainers coexist, because vocational education and education are going to be coexisting itself?
I would think so, because see, when they're talking of introduction of subjects like carpentry and all vocational skills, it has to be imparted by the trainers, at least the practical aspects of it. So I don't see how without trainers we can incorporate vocational skills in the curriculum.
What I'm still unable to figure out is what Sanghi was saying, that about medical and legal. I mean, these were probably, these are the two areas where are totally in gray zone, and there was no necessity of having keep them into separate. If you are talking about one single body to regulate, then medical is first to be regulated, and the second regulation is of course legal and BED, education, BED, because they all need strong authorities. I fully agree with you as to what the committee will consist of, but I hope it will be better than what we are going through with AICTE and MCI and UGC, all singing different tunes, all having different rules and regulations, and plenty of loopholes in between. And since we have already achieved the quantity parameters, the focus has to be on quality. If the focus is not there on quality, India will continue to send 1 lakh students abroad, leaving to $1 billion abroad every year. If you have to stop it, quality is to be the concern. And
Yes.
there's a lot of thing about quality, but that has to be seen. IITs and IIMs will be left alone because they are acts of parliament. I don't think Sanjeev and his group out there would really have to bother, because your act of parliament will not be amended. So it will remain as so. But at least the others will get a chance to have a US or UK based credit hours model, and which will allow them to be more flexible to come in and come out. I think that is a big takeaway from us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I like to thank Sanghi sir, and I believe there are a lot of questions between the minds. So please send a mail to Sanghi sir if there are any more questions. So I'd like to thank our director sir, Sangra Mudali sir, placement director madam, Getika Mudali madam, Atul sir, Ashok sir, and all the participants. And I like to Sanghi sir once again for accepted our invitation and present there. And with this, I like to close this our inaugural session and inaugural talk. Thank you all.